G'day. In this video I'm going to show you how to convert a modern laptop battery pack into a power bank. Basically, with a lot of these new laptops, they're no longer using the 18650 battery cells. Instead, they've actually migrated most of them over to these lithium ion or lithium polymer battery types. Now, what you need to do pretty much is you need to build a 3.7 volt battery pack, and you need to get yourself a control board or a power bank board. Now, you can source these on eBay, the actual boards with built-in protection circuits for $3, $5, whatever. This one here is kind of a cheat because this pack came out of a backpack thing for a Motorola Droid Razr thing. Anyway, so the first step is to extract the cells from your battery pack. Now, this one was pretty easy. The case pretty much split apart and the cells came out of it sort of like that. What we need to do first is determine how much power we want for our power bank. The more the better, usually. But as these are groups of two and a series set of 3, we need to establish that all these cells are good. Now, these aren't that old. The laptop these came out of died from user damage, liquid damage or something like that. So I rescued the battery pack out of it for this type of project. What we need to do first is get our meter, and we just want to probe the individual cells. Just make sure they're around the same point. 3.78 on that pair. Find my connection point. 3.78 on that pair. 3.78 on that pair. Now these are at the right point now that they're pretty much balanced and ready to go. So what we need to do is very carefully clip the cells out of the pack. If you keep some of the copper strap together, that can make life a little bit simpler, but you don't have to do that because you can solder directly to the tabs on the battery. So once you've got your cells disconnected from your pack, these are from a different pack, but the concept's pretty much the same. You need to make sure, again, that the voltages are the same. If they're within 0.2, 0.3 volt, no dramas. What we need to do is establish which is the positive and which is the negative of your battery pack, as I've done here on this one. The positive on this one is in the center and the negative is on the outside. So yeah, you pretty much just have to get your batteries right at the right point. Make sure you've got them around the right way, so that all your positives and all your negatives are at the same location. And then you pretty much just solder the connections between like for like, so all your positives together, all your negatives together. What this does effectively, provided your cells are good, is in this case, this is an 8.8 amp hour, 8.8 watt hour battery times 2. So there's two 8.8s. That gives you 17.6. If you join all these together, you get the multiple of 3 of that. And what does that work out to? If 8.8 amp hour, they're about 3 amp hour each. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 18 amp hour for a power bank. That's pretty good. So once you've got those together, you need to get your your control board. In this case, this one's already got a battery attached, so it makes life a little simpler. Pretty much all I have to do on this one is detach the leads from the battery here and then attach them to this here. This board has the built-in charge circuitry for the battery. It has the boost converter for the battery to USB charging for your phone, whatever. And it's also got the protection so that if the battery goes, if the battery tries to overcharge, or if it's depleted too much, it'll actually cut power to the battery itself. Usually with doing this, if you're using the Powerbank circuitry, the circuitry you're after generally dictates the type of batteries. You want to have, if your board's got protected circuitry on it, your cells can be in like this unprotected, where you've pretty much just got the bare tags. If your batteries have protection circuitry on them, you'll get a voltage difference which might throw the circuitry out. So one word of advice with doing this stuff, by the way, be very careful when you're removing the cells from packs like this, because a lot of the stuff is still live. Well, there's enough power in this stuff to cause, even fires and things. You just have to be, you have to be a bit delicate, but you really just have to be careful. So what we do, we've got one pair there already out. This one here, very carefully separate the packs. Lithium technology I'm not the biggest fan of, just from a safety point of view, because it is easy to go wrong doing things like this. But if you go slowly with it, it should be okay. But if you're a bit worried about it, maybe do this part outside. That way, if it starts to get hot, if you feel the pack starting to get a bit of heat in them or whatever, just throw them outside until they settle down, at which point that set of cells is probably stuffed. But yeah, you do have to be kind of delicate with it. As long as you try and keep positives and negatives away from each other at this point, just until you've got everything separated. But I like to keep my hands on them when I'm doing this, so that I can feel if there's any heat starting to build up in them. It's just a safety thing. More for my peace of mind more than anything else, but yeah. The last thing you want is your lithium batteries exploding. Had enough of that lately. Alright, so we've got our 3 sets of cells. Now these are kind of handy because they've already got metal tabs up here, so that should make soldering a lot easier. Some of these are a bit difficult to solder, just purely because of the way the size of the tabs and the way the battery is and things like that, but you persevere, you get there. So cut these down to size. Again, yeah, these aren't protected cells, so if you accidentally short a pair of cells out, you've got, well, in this one's case, I looked it up, these are about 12 watt hour, so you've got a fair bit of power in this pair of batteries to let go, and it could easily get quite toasty, so yeah. Just be mindful of things like that. You don't want things getting hot, especially with lithium batteries. They pain in the butt for them. Got your cells. Now, once you've done this, and you've got your circuitry and everything together, if you've got access to a 3D printer, just measure up basically the dimensions of the battery pack. Give a little bit of extra room, just because they do expand and contract during charging, and then yeah, you design your case, your battery pack, your control board, as long as you've got room for your control board for the holes to come out, that sort of thing. If you don't have access to one of these, you could probably you could wrap it up in some sort of tape. First, I'd recommend using what's called Captain tape. That's this stuff here. It's pretty much what's wrapped around all the edges of the battery anyway. This stuff doesn't melt. It does burn at high temperature, but it doesn't melt. It's good for electricity type projects. Okay, so we've got our 3 battery sets. Now you could use I reckon you could use as many of these as you want, but I think a realistic limit is 6 cells in total. Otherwise, because most of your power bank circuitry charges at about, well, it pulls about 500 to an amp, milliamps to an amp out of a USB charger. So if you're talking, what's that? So say if you're pulling 10 watts, and these all up is about, no, it's not even 10 watts, is it? It's about 1 watt, something like that. Anyway, it could take 12 to 24 hours to charge one of these packs from dead flat. So size is kind of a factor on power limits, and how quick you can charge it and how long you're willing to wait is always a big factor. I mean, some people are impatient. I am sometimes. But yeah, so pretty much you've got your 3 packs like that. Now this is actually a lot bigger. I think this is a lot deeper than the case here. This case was one of my first attempts. See, four cells fits in there quite well. Could even stop at 4 cells if you wanted to, but more the better. But anyway, so you've got that. You pretty much need to solder your battery cells together. Use some, if you've got access to some double-sided tape, sort of like double-sided sticky tape sort of stuff. Use that to stick your cells together so that they don't move and don't rub up against each other, because you don't want that. That could lead to a dangerous situation. So that's the cells all soldered up together. Now's a good time to get your multimeter out and just make sure that you have got your positive and your negatives together, because that's always a good thing to do. We don't want things going bang. There we go, and we're still sitting at 3.78, which means all the cells are quite happy. Now I've got to attach the controller board.